Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 19 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss critical issues facing government and industry leaders with their secure cloud computing strategies and solutions. With me on today's show are Eric Mill, Executive Director for Cloud Strategy, GSA, Catherine Ebersol, Acting Deputy CIO for Disaster Operations at FEMA, Alan Hill, Chief Information Officer, Federal Communications Commission, Steve Fail, Federal Security Chief Technology Officer, Microsoft, Bianca Langford, Vice President of Security and Reliability Engineering, Datadog, and Brian Sheffley, Head of Public Sector Partner Engineering, Google Public Sector. Well, we are all on this cloud journey and we've been on it for quite a while. A lot of good guidance out there from OMB. And we're moving up the stack as far as maturity. And we're going to start with Eric. In your role as the Director of Cloud Strategy, to sort of take us over the top, tell us what you're seeing at 30,000 feet and how this journey is going across the interagency.
Sure, and thanks so much for having me here, Luke.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, so here at GSA, and my role is a new one here. That was created this year. I started earlier in January, and it certainly has a bit of a special focus on the FedRAMP program, and that is because of the major changes that have happened in both the cloud sector itself and what cloud means to people, and then how agencies are using it, which of course their use of it is changing as well. Something I was saying recently is that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly, if my family member who doesn't work in technology had asked me to define what the cloud is, I would have tried my best to explain something involving data centers and infrastructure, and hopefully I would have gotten something across. These days, if I'm home on vacation with my family or whatever, and they ask me what I do for a living, and I try to explain the cloud, I really am just saying it's just software. It's just the websites that you're visiting these days, right? And that is a big change, actually. And I mean, certainly the web and the internet and the concept of software on the internet has been around for a long time, but something has happened with the size of it and the degree to which organizations, even big, sometimes lumbering, risk-averse organizations like some federal agencies, the degree to which they are really relying on those things for things that people think are very important. So that's a pretty big sea change, and that certainly affects GSA. It affects every agency, affects FedRAMP quite a bit, and really strikes at the core of how the program works. So that's been where I've been spending the lion's share of my time, is working with that program to have it adapt to what those changes have been.
Sure. And, as agencies sort of move along in their maturity model, if you will, regarding cloud, a lot less lift and shift, a lot more organic build, a lot more as a service. These are the kinds of discussions that we have when we talk about cloud. Catherine, I know you all are on a journey over there. Your administrator says year of resilience for FEMA, and certainly moving into the cloud is a big part of that. And I know you've been active and making sure all that happens. Give us a top line, the state of the state as to how that journey is going.
FEMA has been on this journey to do lift and shift and rehosting, right? So speaking
Sure.
of moving our current critical mission apps off the on-prem into the cloud. So again, FEMA continues to carry on that mission to help people before, during, and after disasters. This year is the year of resilience, right, at FEMA. So one of the ways that we're working to integrate resilience to our service is by leveraging cloud computing, right? This will enable us, FEMA as a whole, to streamline disaster response capabilities overall, improving survivor experience, and supporting the recovery of the communities. So again, I had mentioned that we're doing a huge lift and shift project to get off on-prem.
Mhm.
We are approximately probably 75% into the goal currently. And Mr. Armstrong, our CIO, would like it to be completed, or at least 95% into the cloud by the end of September. So we are on our way there. And then there is also the huge effort of replatforming the apps that do not have or that are further along in their modernization plan, but those
Mhm.
modernization plans are not close enough to get some of our data off the on-prem. So we're helping them at replatforming some of these applications and moving them a little closer date to that. And again, both work streams should achieve greater agility, scalability, security, cost efficiency across our IT environment. So again, improving service delivery and better user experience. So it has been a journey. I'm not going to say that it was not bumpy on the way. We had some setbacks, lots of reconfiguring of what we needed to do on the network capability itself. But but we are there. But we are there now. So it's been exciting, and I'm very happy at the status that we are now as we're moving on to achieve the goal for FEMA.
Fantastic. And yeah, it's often a great power move, right? Get into the cloud, then optimize. And once there, you can unlock all these capabilities. So on some very important capabilities for folks when they're experiencing a very bad day. So we appreciate everything FEMA is doing. Alan, how about at Federal Communications Commission? I know you all have been on a tear there to get all of your capability into the cloud environment. Tell us about that.
Well, Luke, it's great to see you again. Thank you for having me here on this platform today. I can tell you from the last time we talked, we're at the early stage of that journey. I'm happy to say today we have about 3/4 of our systems out of our data center. So that's 800 out of 1,200 systems that are now
Wow.
in the cloud. We
Who
are
knew
moving.
FCC was so big, right? With so many systems.
It has a lot of services. It works across. It works with FEMA. We have the
Sure.
and so moving that into the cloud service providers and using. And I know Erica talking about FedRAMP. It's very important for us to leverage FedRAMP services and those providers that come forward. It gives us enhanced security and compliance. There's no way we can scale to what we need to do. And from a security perspective, from a technology perspective, we have outdated technologies that have been there for some time with cloud service providers, with those solution providers that provide cloud services, being able to deliver, modernize the technology as we move along. That brings an operational efficiency for us and resilience. We're able to, disruptions. We have less disruptions by being in the cloud. It's not to say it doesn't happen. It can happen.
Sure.
But there's less of a chance of that happening. And I'll say it from a cost avoidance perspective, because we're not getting all the services we need, really, particularly from a security perspective. The automation, the ability to stop attacks, so by using the cloud services, we're able to have much more vigilance and ensuring that the technology is up to date, and the aspect of what it takes for us to update the cloud in a data center, much more longer time frame to do that. Being in the cloud, those technologies are being updated continuously behind the scenes, and that's extremely important. It gives us, and what we're supposed to be focused on is that mission capabilities for the bureaus and office to deliver to the public.
Sure. No longer going hand to hand on those 800 applications. You're just focusing on them, and you're not trying to wrestle all these speeds and feeds and everything else. So, there certainly was a time where CIOs were questioning, okay, is it going to be resilient? Is it going to be secure? And that quickly flipped around to, hey, I know I'm not resilient. I know I'm not secure in my on-prem environment. I need to move quickly, Steve. And they did. They moved quickly, and Microsoft was an early adopter of a lot of the FedRAMP capability. We certainly do appreciate that. We've been on a long journey since then. Tell us what you're seeing now from the Chief Technology Officer's perspective as to where we are on this transition.
Absolutely. So many organizations are now approaching the point in time in their cloud journey where they can proudly proclaim that I have legacy cloud applications. And so I would say that's an interesting measure for success, right?
Yeah.
And so similarly, Microsoft has been on a cloud journey for a very long time. And so what we've realized in our journey is that it truly is a continuous modernization cycle. So it's not moved to the cloud and your modernization is complete.
Right. As it's always been, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The cloud does not opt you out of modernization, right? It just facilitates that modernization. Especially for us as we're looking at security implications of, exponential increase in capability in compute with the cloud, there's an exponential need for increase in security capability as well. And so we've spent a lot of focus there, not only helping federal organizations with their security needs, also internally at Microsoft, we've announced the launch of our Secure Future initiative. And really, that's a recognition, and we're hoping to instill this idea within the industry as well, that what worked for security for the last 20 years is not what's going to lead to digital safety for the next 20 years. And it really does need to be a continuous security development lifecycle, continuous improvement to detections, and at a non-linear rate. And so, we are excited about all of those items that we've been working around the Secure Future initiative, and excited to publicly talk about those as well, so that we can inform government organizations and give them ideas around work that they can do for their environments. One of them is really around legacy. Also, the idea that dev test is not exempt from security. It's not exempt from management. How do we bring dev test environments really forward into the future of security as well? And there's a lot of work to be done there, but it's good and important work to do.
And we know dev test oftentimes a soft target, if you will. And so we certainly appreciate everything that you are doing to take a lot of that capability off the table. Not that the responsibility gets shifted over to the cloud provider, which brings in Bianca and the critical aspect of instrumentation. So tell us about how Datadog is making sure that the proper instrumentation is there to achieve these goals.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks to our agency partners for all the amazing work they're doing in the cloud journey. And I love this about what I call the curse of the early adopter, that now we have legacy cloud applications that we now have to deal with all the time. And something being a cloud-first company at Datadog, something that we've also gone through that journey ourselves to keep ourselves modernized. But what's really important to us being a security observability and a logging monitoring company is giving our customers the ability to stitch together this data in one place and create this observability across the cloud posture, which we know once we're there, once our customers move to the cloud and they instrument their logging, their monitoring, that gives them the visibility they need, but they still need ease of operations to be able to find the right signals. So a lot of our focus has been on making sure our products better each other, and that with the work we're exposing, with the threat detections that we're putting in place, when our instrumentation is in place, the customers feel the confidence they need to have when they're looking at their coverage and the data they're looking at. We want to make sure that those mission critical workloads are protected. We've done a lot of work in stitching together, monitoring the applications with making sure front-end developers have a view in their app, the infrastructure teams monitor that. Cloud costs are very easily visible, and that's also from a security perspective. Workloads that sit around but cost money often get forgotten, like we see that in the lower environments, but now we are also able to see that cloud cost, and any spikes in it can tell us both, hey, we're spending money, but also we could potentially have a security issue.
Yeah, very good catch there. And once again, this is where these soft targets sort of linger out there, and where the trouble starts. So we appreciate everything that Datadog is doing. Brian, as Google would, they came in from a very engineering perspective, came right over the top on FedRAMP, et cetera, and you've been on a tear ever since. Give us a top line as to how things are going.
The first thing I would say, it's just been so incredible to see how many customers have been excited to get on board with Google Cloud. And a couple of folks on the panel have made the comment already about how lift and shift is a good first step. But there is, I think, what I've seen, not just at Google, but in my years in the industry, that organizations, whether it's public sector or private sector, will frequently experience what I call the lift and shift shot clock, which is once you've got infrastructure in someone else's data center, moving your problems to someone else's square footage rarely solves all of the challenges that you have. And if you don't begin to modernize the environment quickly, what organizations will experience is a little bit of brain drain, where talented folks are leaving the organization for other projects. There's a lot of undocumented institutional knowledge that goes along with them. And that's why Google's done things like provide millions of dollars in funding to government organizations to help them expand their digital skills, with at least, to date, 50,000 government workers across 15 states and more than that within the federal government. The other thing that's been really encouraging for us to see in terms of what's happened recently is at the evolution of the draft memo released by the OMB back in October 2023 about the future of FedRAMP. And some of the guidance that they're giving in this memo is that government agencies really should be focused on leveraging shared infrastructure between the federal government and the private sector. I think, FedRAMP, which was created in 2011, was mostly built around viewing cloud infrastructure as that, right? Infrastructure, hosted infrastructure in someone else's data center. But as time has gone on, and certainly the pandemic accelerated much of this, cloud services means much more than cores and memory and hard disk in someone else's building. And as we're seeing it in 2023, I think an unintended consequence of the program as it exists today is that FedRAMP has been incentivizing and in some cases requiring commercial cloud providers to create separate dedicated infrastructure for federal use, whether that's through its application of federal security frameworks or other program operations. So the draft memorandum, which is encouraging a modern cloud approach based on logical and software-based separation instead of physical separation, is really encouraging. I think it's a great step in the right direction. And it's no surprise that I would say how encouraged we are by this, because Google really pioneered that approach. A lot of our customers are asking us why we don't have a GovCloud. And the answer has been because we don't need one. And for that exact reason is we chose to pursue the authorizations and the accreditations at the logical level. And so we're running government workloads inside what you might consider to be a commercial data center. But the net result to our government customers is that as soon as one of our services becomes authorized or accredited in one of these programs, they become immediately available for use by our customers. And we're not maintaining, two separate code bases for services. And so government customers are always getting access to the latest and greatest of what we have to offer. That's been really encouraging to see.
Absolutely, and a brilliant move by Google to take on that type of strategy. And perhaps we'll hear more about FedRAMP from Eric when we loop him back in here. But we're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about cloud computing Going to get into specific examples. Alan, I'm going to start with you. You talked about a top line. It sounds like you're way along in your efforts to move into the cloud. You want to give us a specific example that you'd like to share with the listening audience?
Sure. Thank you, Luke. So we moved, as I said, multiple different systems into the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
For example,
I'm still trying to get my head around 800 of these things.
Well, when you take all the different systems into dependency and how things are built in a legacy perspective,
sure,
you can drastically collapse your infrastructure, build out a much more higher level functional way of delivering things, vice system server type approaches.
mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of the cloud. And so, for example, we moved our E-class system into the cloud. That's an internal system our customers use for mission purposes, and that system has drastic performance improvements. That's important, and we want better performance. Just itself and moving to the cloud, the agility and scalability, so important. We're now being able to take in servers where we had like 97 different servers to serve a function based on each system. We're now able to collapse them to less than a dozen using the
Nice.
cloud capabilities. That's important. So the scalability, the flexibility, in addition, being able to rapidly deploy and scale our resources to meet our needs, that's important. Automation, innovation, the cloud service providers and the different OEMs out there that's working in the cloud environment, able to bring advanced automation and innovation, really facilitating integration, cost-cutting technologies. That's extremely important. Being able to automate things, artificial intelligence, having access to that, being able to use it, make things easier, and basically transform how we deliver service. And there's also the aspect of enhanced data management. That's extremely important. Having multiple databases. My days of being a database person in my young days, working with different technologies in my young days, much different today. And so, having much better data management capabilities, really robust analytics that we can now get, being able to do things basically in seconds, and gives us better ability to make decisions and improve transparency and be accountable for the public and stuff, and provide superior customer services to the external customers and our internal providers.
Delivery to the customers, that's key. Bianca, you're in a unique position there where you're instrumenting a lot of these different departments and agencies. You're seeing a lot of different capabilities. You want to give us an example of one that you'd like to highlight?
Yes. So, and you're right, the example is unique as we have customers we're trying to protect, and we're also protecting our own internal infrastructure and our own internal platform, and we're developing products for all of that. So it's like a three-pronged approach to all of it. So we are, we made our moderate high commitment, and we have made so many strides in our products and compliance frameworks that we support our agencies. Our cloud security management tool that we internally use for our own entire visibility and posture of all of our resources in the cloud has numerous compliance frameworks. Our log management tool supports the M2131 compliance. So, and with the development of Cloud SIEM that we leverage for threats, it stitches it together so that the logging is available based on the requirements needed. And we're able to track if there's an attack or a potential attack or a suspicion of an attack within the platform.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate all those extended efforts that you all are bringing those capabilities across the interagency. Eric, well, we heard FedRAMP cited there. We know there is a draft out there. You want to give us an example of, some activity that's going on there at GSA that you'd like to share with the listening audience that we can all look forward to?
Sure. Wherever I go, people just sort of can't help but talk about FedRAMP in some way. And it's sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not. But
yeah, I was going to say the good and the bad, right?
That's right. I gave in my opening a little bit of like kind of the context for what's going on, right? And I think the big priority right now, certainly for me and for GSA, is that we're reorganizing how FedRAMP works to try to catch up to how the cloud works and how agencies have been working. And one of the things that we did recently is we published a public roadmap for the program, and which is sometimes a little tricky for agencies to put out there. It makes you a little share a little vulnerability of like what you think you're going to be doing, put some ideas of timelines around them, and we really felt that was important to show a direction and show a bit of a vision for how we're working strategically to be responsive to what certainly everyone on this call is seeing and what we are seeing. Right. And it's a plan for us that it's certainly aligned with what Congress was looking for in the FedRAMP Authorization Act, what the White House is looking for in that draft memo. But what's just as important is it's based on the program's lived experience here at GSA, working with agencies, working with cloud providers. I don't want to put too much emphasis on what's ultimately a plan. It's more important is what we do. I do think one of the things that is valuable about how we're structuring our work right now is that we are really orienting ourselves around showing evidence of progress and value as early as possible, right? So internally, there's a lot of language where we talk about MVPs, minimum viable products, and pilots, really pushing ourselves to get things out earlier than we might ordinarily be comfortable with, so that we can get that feedback, understand what users are seeing as valuable and customers are seeing, keep momentum with our partners, and ultimately just understand what's getting the most traction, where we need to focus our resources. One of the areas that I'm personally, enthusiastic about everything that we put in that plan, but one thing I'll call out, right, is that we're really looking at how our machine is running, right? So, and one of the reasons I think a plan like this has been important for GSA to do and for the program to have is that because FedRAMP and the cloud ecosystem has grown so much, and there are now an order of magnitude, maybe two more providers in the mix and agencies as well with FedRAMP than there used to be. As that's gone on, like the calendars of the team and who they're meeting with has grown up. Like it's not something that I'm sure the folks on this call have experienced something like this, where it's very easy as the demands and the fires that come up in an organization grow up, you can get into a loop where like that's all you can spend your time on, right? And I'm not saying it's quite that extreme in GSA, but it has definitely been something where there's been some success with FedRAMP in terms of the numbers and how it's grown, and that means that it has been a little harder to be really consciously proactive in how you dedicate your resources. And so that has been, it's been a loop we wanted to break a little bit. And I think there's some evidence that we're doing that. One of the ways that I think that'll show up is in how we're able to take the time to adjust some of the expectations we have in our machine. So one of the things that we announced, for example, is that we are partnering with DISA, with the Defense Department's with their cloud authorizing official, basically, on a lower review process, right? And we're really pushing to have that be something where we take work that typically occurs later in the process and can be unplanned and kind of unexpected, and moving it to the beginning of the process where it can be planned for, and where ultimately, once it's done, people have a predictable idea of how things go through the system, and we can start to get more comfortable on the GSA side, doing a lot less checks at the end, because we have all like aligned, agreed on, and got confidence on different areas up front. And we want to do something similar with our change request process. And like, that's a philosophy that I think we want to spread through the program, where we're moving as much into the predictable and planned for part of the process as possible, so that we can, we get more comfortable knowing that the control that we have is on the process and not like on every little snapshot along the way.
Sure. And we really do appreciate all those sort of indications of level of maturity there. Steve, how about over at Microsoft? You're in a position there where you're seeing a lot of different activity going on across these various agencies. Perhaps you can highlight one that maybe was an early adopter, maybe a lagger, but something that is going to be of interest to our listening audience.
Absolutely. So I think what's top of mind for many in government right now is the executive order on safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. You could probably shorten that to the AI craze coming up, but that wasn't a very appropriate title for an executive order. So the question is, how do we really take advantage of this enormous opportunity that is in front of us around AI? While when you look at government workloads and government mission, we need to manage those AI risks even more appropriately than in other areas, right? So as you look at government workloads, those are critical to national security. Those are critical to citizens and the appropriate functioning of the company. So there is sort of this increased risk reward that federal agencies are looking at. And so in this respect, really, we've come together to put together guidance around how do you really understand the particular risk, not just of an AI model, but really of an AI system, and execute it in a responsible way, pick the right use cases that are going to benefit citizens while not increasing risk profile. And so there are some early adopters. There are a lot of use cases around AI and generative AI, but also just an entire AI platform for federal agencies, whether it's enhancing productivity, whether it's augmenting cognition or accelerating discovery. There are also on the horizon a lot of scenarios where we're going to solve previously intractable problems. And so it's really exciting to bring new capability. And because these organizations have moved to the cloud and have data in the cloud, it's so much easier for them to leverage these capabilities at less cost. So one that I'd like to call out, a leader, is the National Library of Medicine at the National Institutes of Health. They've collaborated with the National Cancer Institute to develop a large language model-based tool. They called it Trial GPT. There's a GPT for everything these days, but Trial GPT is using Azure OpenAI to select clinical trials for patients that might be eligible based on just a text summary of medical conditions. And so taking data that's already there, that's already existent, and using it to drive better outcomes for patient health is an amazing first step where we see just great benefit to society from the use of artificial intelligence.
Great example of the power of the cloud, and we really do appreciate that. Catherine, you described this intense effort that you're on to transition over into the cloud. You want to highlight a specific example of something that perhaps you've gotten into the cloud, maybe has unlocked some capability for
Sure.
the listening audience, the public at large?
Yes, thank
Whoever
you.
needs the goods and services from FEMA.
So I would have to agree with my colleagues on the panel here, from the FedRAMP perspective and AI Gen, right? So one of the initiatives or great examples that I'd like to give is things that we're doing here where I think cloud computing makes a big difference for us is some of the initiatives that we're doing is, differences in planning, assistance, and resilience of the community program, right? So FEMA's resilience, OCIO, and office policy and program analysts, OPA, are leading in the DHS-sponsored generative AI. The pilot, aiming to increase efficiency in hazardous mitigations, planning for the local government, right? So the pilot hopes to automate, such documents as, planning, writing, allowing government and more time to focus on public engagement and the generative buy-in to effective mitigation strategies overall. The pilot will assist in two areas, 2 to 3 areas, actually. It's the state, local, and tribal and territories that, we deal with. Developing the plans, and it should hopefully identify and reduce, any risk or evaluations of risks. The objective is probably to determine how Gen AI overall can be used to enable communications and build a more resilient, complaint hazardous mitigation plan that could be tailored to support the local, state, tribal, and territory and other territories, as we need. So again, through the cloud, computing, the FEBA engineers who has been working on this program by implementing the AI service over the cloud environment allows us to develop, a purpose built AI tool to support these efforts overall, which I think is a truly amazing that, FEMA's got a lot of stuff going on. If we can automate and we can leverage the tools that are provided to us, it's to me a win-win situation, when it comes down to supporting disasters in the community.
Such an important part, the planning. People, ho-hum the planning, but we know an ounce of planning can save a lot of capability and resources on the back end. Brian, can you give us an example at Google where you all have been able to work with an agency, focus on this journey to allow them to implement this capability and unlock these clouds, goods, and services?
Absolutely, Luke. Recent conversation with a customer, very eye-opening individual in an administrative capacity, told us that as he was walking down the hallways, it was hard to imagine any job that he saw being done that could not in some way be improved through the use of artificial intelligence and generative AI. And whether we're talking about applications in state and local government, federal civilian agencies, or supporting the mission in national defense and intelligence contexts, meeting the demand of that mission is becoming increasingly more complex. So we've seen customers use generative AI to do things like help veterans and other constituents with applications for benefits in healthcare, education, and pension plans, using AI as a central hub for business-related government services like financial planning, compliance, streamlining the procurement process, which I'm sure everybody on this call would like to see done, and supporting applications for health and human services by providing a more reliable and stress-free experience to the constituent. So the question has been, how do we build a platform based on our responsible AI principles with pillars of fairness, interpretability, privacy, safety, and security to bring the potential of generative AI to public sector agencies? And a couple of ways we've done that, and some of the things that are really exciting. We've seen the Defense Innovation Unit deploy Google Cloud to develop AI models, which are assisting augmented reality microscope detection of certain types of cancer. And we've seen the U.S. Air Force use our Vertex AI platform to overhaul their manual processes. And then we've seen the Air Force in their Rapid Sustainment Office use our AI, machine learning and machine vision technology for aircraft maintenance. So there's so many stories and so many applications I could get into. But I think the general takeaway here is just how many of the services the government provides and the missions that it's executing, it can be improved by this technology.
Hundreds of examples, thousands more to come. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about cloud computing and all aspects of that. We're going to talk about priorities. Eric, I'm going to start with you. Top line, FedRAMP, everything else going on at GSA. Top priorities for you.
Yeah, so one of the nice things about publishing a public roadmap is it just does a lot of that talking for you in a lot of settings. There is a lot that's going on. The through lines, I think, for us, right, we're putting work into a few different distinct spaces that have some overlap with each other. So one of those things is around really making the FedRAMP program in particular a more customer-focused organization. And to be clear, it's actually it's been a very customer focused organization in a lot of important ways. And it and it really has, I think, done an excellent job of being extremely like open and accessible to people to work with and agencies and with cloud providers, right? Like they really want to see people get through the process. At the same time, there are some structural things that have inhibited that. So one thing that we're tackling, for example, is updating the program's sense of performance metrics, right? So formally and informally and publicly, how we measure what it is that we're doing. And so when we talk about time and cost, for example, big things for people, we want to make sure that we're not like it's easiest for GSA to measure the things that it can see directly that are in its control, right? And that is I think a normal thing for a program to try to look for to how it's measuring itself, like it's taking its work and trying to make it more efficient, bringing down its own SLAs about how it performs as part of the process. But with FedRAMP, we're concerned with the customer's lived experience going through FedRAMP and the implications of the decisions that that we and that the board and OMB and everybody else is making around how the program works. So one of the things you'll be seeing from us is we're working towards surveying and establishing some kind of regular way in which we are getting information about things like time and cost from the folks who are going through FedRAMP, so that we can see, and even though that will be an imperfect endeavor, but what will be important for us is that as long as it's imperfect in a consistent way, we can see whether what we're doing as the years go by start to move those numbers for us and change what our customers are seeing. That's a difficult challenge, I think, for us to do, that we are interested in doing, and I think it will help to just ground us in a customer oriented way and just in a more structural sense. I'll maybe mention one other area here. There's a few things I could say, but another one I'll talk about for a minute is just what we are trying to do with technology. So FedRAMP is a program that's inside the technology wing of GSA. For those familiar, that's the Technology Transformation Services. It's a group of many hundreds of people. It is unusually for federal agencies, flush with federal employees who are experts in software engineering, product management, design, cloud infrastructure, cloud security. We're there. FedRAMP is in that team for a reason, right? It is a technology program that has a big impact and needs to be driven by the same kinds of skills and principles that GSA has prioritized from a technology standpoint over the last decade. So we're really making a big push to level up our game on how we run ourselves infrastructurally and the technology we bring to bear for the problem. We're in the process of putting together we've had out on the street this year a procurement for a fairly large technology platform that will allow us to build out some of the things that we have planned around automation and data analysis to a greater extent than we've been able to before. But more fundamentally, we're also starting to bring in more skill sets into the program that are rooted in software engineering and data science and cloud infrastructure than we've historically done. And I think that's going to be really important for the program, both from just a sheer capacity standpoint and from our ability to really start making good on some of the dreams that the community around FedRAMP has had for things like being able to take, get out of the world of 800-page Word documents and PDFs and be able to, send the stuff as data across a wire to an API, have things be validated automatically, have the human effort involved in analyzing these things be focused on things that only humans have to do, right? And have computers be able to do the things that computers can do.
I certainly appreciate all the streamlining there. And I know that the community certainly appreciates that too and looks forward to it.
Yes.
Really do appreciate that. Catherine, we're going to go to you. We know some of the activity that you're focused on, laser focused on. Top priority for you this year in your cloud goals.
Okay, so many of us know like lots of offices have lots of number one priorities, right? And you kind of have to juggle through those. So again, at FEMA, in the office of the CIO, the main priority that we have that I'm working on specifically is what I stated before, the migration of all the on-prem assets to the cloud environment, by the end of 24. Our office of the CIO is working with the other program offices, and we're on track, again, to achieve that by the end of the fiscal year. Additionally, another top priority underway is to modernize the disaster recovery sites as well, which kind of goes hand in hand with our cloud rehosting effort, because once we finish migrating the applications and the databases to the cloud, we can start decommissioning, right, all the old legacy hardware and move out of the data centers that we are currently in at FEMA. So with these additional priorities, again, multiple top priorities across the office of the CIO,
Sure.
but specifically in operations, these are the things that we're working on. We're hoping to achieve absolutely cost savings year to year, improve system performance, provide flexibility across the workforce, and agency operations, and enhancing future capabilities and emerging technologies across the board as well.
Outstanding. The administrator and the CIO have made it crystal clear what your goals are for this year. We appreciate everything you're doing. Alan, top priority for you at the FCC this year?
Well, Luke, I say complete the migration out of our data center. To get that complete, that's extremely important, and also enhance our security posture. Cybersecurity posture extremely important. New threats are coming. Generative AI, they're a plus, but it also can be used as a mechanism to create threats. We've taken this from perspective of a digital mission roadmap. We've laid this out from a modernization of one priority, operational efficiency, putting that business mindset on how do we improve it using the technologies in the cloud, and then also getting full stack observability. Critical for us to be able to see down to the code level, everything happening. The more telemetry we have, that helps us build our top priority is that zero trust. All that telemetry being able to, we cannot wait for patches to come out. It takes time for CVEs for new patches to come. We got to get to where we can see down to the granular level of how the data flows occurring and stop the attackers before they even get moving. And so that's our prioritization of enhancing our security approach and making sure that we have a resilient services and cybersecurity posture.
Sounds like the goals are crystal clear. We really do appreciate that. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up with a question that we always like to ask, and sort of fast forward into the future, not too far, a couple of years from now. Brian, we're going to start with you at Google. You cited some very exciting capabilities already that a lot of these agencies are doing. What can we expect? What kind of conversation are we going to be having 2 years from now regarding the cloud computing capability?
Yeah, so here's the vision, right? We have got to help government agencies, wherever they are, retire technical debt and take advantage of the same generative AI technology and cybersecurity technology that is available to the private sector. So you're going to see Google do things like continue to release products that emphasize a multi-cloud model, or Cloud Interconnect, which is providing low latency connections not only to and from customers' own data center into Google, but also between clouds and between cloud services.
Thank you.
You're going to see us push generative AI into applications to retire technical debt. Like we have mainframe modernization tools that will take a look at a legacy code base like COBOL and convert that code into modern Java. So as Eric mentioned, like between industry and government, we need to partner so that we can help government agencies move beyond the limitations of encasing interactions within that protected perimeter. So we've maintained our commitment to certify our entire US cloud infrastructure at impact level 5. But there are also a lot of government use cases that have sovereignty or national security implications that need to go even beyond that. And that's why last month at Google Cloud Next, we were super excited to announce a big milestone for us, which was the authorization of our Google distributed cloud system, which is available in a server rack configuration or a human portable system, was authorized to host top secret and secret missions for the US intelligence community and top secret missions for the Department of Defense. So we're going to see government agencies be able to leverage the best of cybersecurity and generative AI where the data and where the mission is happening, no matter where that is. And I'm super excited to see the future of that and to see how we can co-innovate together with our public sector customers.
The ultimate edge, and we really do appreciate that. Bianca, coming out of the Petri dish there into the environment, what are we going to expect to see at Datadog?
Yeah, well,
years from now?
I hope one thing that when we talk with our agency partners, we're not going to be talking about migrating into the cloud so much. We're going to be talking about elevating our cloud experience and leveraging all the tools we have.
100% up the stack here, right?
Yes. And so we're right there. Our commitment to FedRAMP High, also iLevel 5, is something that's really top of mind for us. I hope we talk about this use of private LLMs in the government technology. We're taking advantage of serverless more, that we are where the customer is. And we know that one constant in cybersecurity is change. So one thing we're going to be committed to and talking to our agency partners is about once we're changing, once we're growing in the cloud, how does that deep observability stay, and that we're providing the tools needed end to end to make sure that the use of cloud is responsible and any growth is visible to the leaders that need to see it.
We really do appreciate everything that you're doing for the community. Steve, Microsoft. Fast forward 2 years, what are we going to see?
So at Microsoft, we really are on the front lines of cybersecurity and AI, and we see these as two top areas of interest for the U.S. government. And so our strategy is to move fast, to learn fast, to exercise a growth mindset, and share transparently everything that we learn so that the entire industry can move forward, can advance, can mature, and the federal government along with it. We have some priorities. Top priority for us, there was an email from Satya Nadella recently that outlined the top priority for the entire company, and it was cybersecurity. He had a great quote, if you're faced with a trade-off between security and another priority, your answer is clear, do security. I think this type of culture at Microsoft is absolutely what is needed at the federal government as well. And so as we lean into that with secure by design, secure by default, secure operations, there are a lot of new best practices that are being forged. And so we're engineering new industry leading practices like confidential compute for secrets handling. You may be familiar with the concept of going passwordless, where a user doesn't know their password, doesn't need to have access to their password. They can access the system securely. We can't be trusted with our passwords as users, right? So the best thing is just not to have them. Same way we're creating that experience for developers, that they don't have to have knowledge or access to secrets. The identity provider itself now doesn't even need to have knowledge or access to key material with our confidential compute capabilities. So these types of best practices, we really want to see become commonplace across the industry and across U.S. government to secure those digital estates, create a safer world, and help everyone advance the mission with digital safety in mind.
No passwords. We all look forward to the day it'll come. Alan, how about at FCC? 2 years from now, you're going to have all your stuff migrated into the cloud. What's next?
Well, I agree with the emphasis on security. And so in 2 years, we want to be able to have a fully automated network that is self-compliant, that is multi-cloud environment supported, that provides full stack observability, see every single layer, everything that's going on. The enhancements and technology brings great customer experience and better services, also brings new threats. And so bringing that resilience in 2 years, that our networks are smart, able to adapt. We got to move at the speed of technology. We can't continue to have the moving at the speed of acquisitions, budget cycles, and legacy ways of delivering. Get out of the CapEx approach, get into an OpEx, use as a service, anything as a service, and being able to bring on new emerging technologies quicker. In the cloud service providers and the OEM providers that are using cloud services and bringing those secure. I'm a believer in FedRAMP. We've sponsored we have 9 different sponsorships for FedRAMP solutions.
Wow.
And in fact, we were just meeting with the office, the FedRAMP office on our latest one that we're sponsoring. And we believe that's a value to the public in doing such. And that's important to be able to use these secure solutions. It takes a greater load off of the federal employees, but also helps us have a much more secure posture. And we got to be able to move at a much faster rate. I want to be able to see everything happening on the network so that we can stop it at point and also ensure that we have great customer experience for our services that we deliver.
Fantastic. And operating at the speed of mission. Who doesn't want that? Catherine, speaking about the speed of mission, 2 years from now, you'll be well on your way. You'll have migrated into the cloud. What do you expect to see? Where do you expect to be? How do you expect to be operating 2 years from now?
Okay, so FEMA and our office, OCIO's office, is we are still in the early journeys of cloud. So, but we're very pleased with the progress that we have made to date. As we get into the cloud and we are more mature, one of the focuses that we're going to shift to is working with our mission partners to optimize the critical FEMA systems by, leaning on best practices, leaning on cost avoidance, protecting funding, and demonstrate our commitment to adopting the emerging technologies, right, going forward. And one of the emerging technologies we're looking at adopting is, of course, leveraging edge computing. It's a benefit, for FEMA and our government services, especially in the areas of where we are sometimes where there's weak communication infrastructure, supporting the disasters, supporting our local geographic remote areas where we definitely know that we haven't had good connectivity back to the cloud. So again, additionally, leaning on the edge computing is going to provide us local processing capabilities, ensuring data availability in remote or the challenging environments that, my disaster team goes and sets up in. And again, greatly improving field operations and delivering the services right to the survivors. So edge computing is, the next areas that we'd like to look at from the OCIO's perspective.
Sounds fantastic. And you talked about weak communications out in those environments. I would say no communications out in those environments. You have to, start from whole cloth, if you will.
Yes.
So we appreciate everything that FEMA is doing to help those in need. Eric, take us home here as a proud sort of one of the original JAB members. I've seen the journey that you've been on with FedRAMP, and we certainly all appreciate that. It's been instrumental. 2 to 3 years from now, what can we expect? What's that experience going to be like?
Well, it's going to be magical, Luke. Everything is going to be to be
Woo!
instant and free. No, FedRAMP is one of those fundamentally hard problems, right? So it is. We have somewhat contradictory goals that are on the program. Right? The purpose of making FedRAMP is to bring some consistency to the government, how it engages with cloud. Cloud providers should be able to work with the government once and have that just work and have that carry through. Agencies should be able to take another agency's work and not have to redo it and be able to lean on that and do a lot less work. If that's not the goal, then what's the point of this? At the same time, the federal agencies have totally different risk appetites, and for very good reasons, right? If you're an organization running a nuclear lab, you're going to need to have a different kind of confidence in things that you bring into your environment than a software development shop, and there's a big spectrum on that. FedRAMP can't be a program that holds up 95% of the government until the most risk intolerant 5% of the government is comfortable with everything, right? We have to somehow do these things, and those are tough. Those goals contradict each other to some extent, right? And our task in that is to acknowledge it and start adapting to where we think we can move some of the complexity in the system to the places where it can be better managed, right? So there are places where we're looking where we can centralize more, where we envision GSA doing a whole lot more of what the program calls continuous monitoring, all the sort of post-authorization work, and so there's an oversight component to that. There's a data analysis component to that. We're also going to lean more into what the statute and the OMB memo called the presumption of adequacy, right? Which is it's a formal sounding way of saying the thing that I was just describing, that like it's supposed to add some consistency and centrality to the process. A FedRAMP authorization is generally speaking supposed to be sufficient for an agency to go and take it and move forward. And part of the program's role in that is making sure that's a very defensible stance, and that we're going to be putting some more effort into having the full body of FedRAMP authorizations, a sort of clearer, consistent set of expectations for what those hold. And I think there's just one of the things I really like the most about this administration cybersecurity strategy is the thing that the point that it makes about moving the burden and risk management away from end users and onto technology providers and onto places where it can be more appropriately managed. I think there's a very direct analog to risk management as well. We want to look for places where FedRAMP can do more of that risk management where it is possible. But the other half, the flip side of this coin here is where we're also you can see this and what we're going on now. We're striking up many more partnerships that I think than we have in the past to take advantage of the expertise and the varying sort of approaches and risk appetites that agencies have to take advantage of their expertise and their capacity and expand the throughput of the FedRAMP ecosystem more than any one agency like ours could possibly do. Those are, again, it's tricky things to do all at the same time, but that we're trying to lay out how we're going to go about that so that by the end of this, we may not make the hard problem of FedRAMP disappear from the earth because it is just a fundamentally hard one, but it should feel like it is the system has been more naturally rebalanced to go fast where it can go fast, to be centralized where it can be centralized, and when it can't be, you understand why, and there's a way to navigate that. That's how I'd say it.
And we certainly do appreciate that effort. We certainly appreciate all the efforts of our panel members here. So I'd like to thank each one of you for taking the time from your busy schedules to join us for this program. I'd also like to thank all of our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.